I would like to express my sincere thanks to Chris Blackwood, Nilla Frunska, for supporting my channel through Buy Me a Coffee portal. With a small donation or subscription on Buy Me a Coffee, you can help me to grow this channel. Also, if you like what you see and hear, please remember to subscribe. It costs only a few seconds of your time and means a world to me. In the history of the ancient world during so-called Roman period, we have nations which are straightaway recognizable and prized for their success and cultural impact on the world, ancient or otherwise. Nations which come to mind are Greeks, Romans of course, Macedonians or Carthaginians. But Mediterranean was quite a vast place and full of different people, some of them quite successful, yet we usually do not remember them so vividly as the mentioned giants of the ancient world. Obviously, today we check out Thracians. Thracians were Indo-European people who occupied area between northern Greece, southern Russia and northwestern Turkey. Famous or infamous mercenaries fought against or alongside Persians, Greeks, Macedonians and Celts, and frankly speaking they outlived all of those people when it comes to being independent. Finally, like so many before them, they succumbed to power of Rome in AD 46. Now let's get going with the miniatures. I wanted to get me some Thracians. One can ask, what seems to be the problem? I mean, there are Thracian miniatures available in metal and as STL files for printing. That is true, but creators of mentioned miniatures pretty much always depict them, Thracians that is, the way they looked during Greco-Persian wars or earlier. The thing is that Thracians during 4th century BC went through dramatic change in appearance, and when they marched to war with Alexander of Macedon, one could hardly tell a difference between them and the Greeks or Macedonians. That is why I decided to go for some conversions that will get me something that will in generally look like Thracians and it will be historically correct, more or less. In this given situation, I obviously wanted to use various plastic sets available on the market. The thing that I've been toying with on the screen was my first attempt. Body belongs to Roman Velite from Agema Miniatures, head is from Warlord's Game Macedonian, and arms and cape are from Dacian set from Victrix. I've dropped that idea mainly to the fact that Agema plastic Romans were not so easy to get hold of and they were all wearing sandals, which would be, well, incorrect. I decided to go for Victrix plastics only. I was pretty sure that among all those ancient sets I will find what I need. The thing was that most of all I needed to find bodies in simple unadorned tunics with no armor, and this proved harder than you may think, but finally I got what I was looking for, and more actually. My peak were unarmored Summonites from Victrix, naturally, and honestly that seemed like a perfect match. So first of all we have pretty much standard simple tunics with no armor of any kind. Thracians quite often carried swords on baldricks, and those were Scythian swords or Akinakes type or Greek Xiphos type, so far so good. What was great about those bodies as well was the fact that some of them were actually wearing greaves, a very important piece of armor when it comes to depicting Thracians from, let's say, 100 BC. Now, the last thing, shoes. Here we have just bare feet, which is actually okay. Boots that Thracians are usually depicted wearing were abandoned in favor of shallow shoes or bare feet. So my core, so to speak, was decided. Now, one more thing was a very distinctive sword, which is actually, well, even more important than greaves in terms of depicting Thracians. I'm talking, of course, about the Rhomphaia sword. It was a single-edged weapon with a gentle curve sharpened on the inner side of the curve. Well, here I decided to go the easy way and use similar and related weapon used by Dacian warriors and called by the Romans falx. These weapons are of course available from Victrix plastic set of Dacian warriors. So the main difference between falx and Rhomphaia lies in angle and shape of the curve. The curvature on the falx was greater. Here a small problem arose. Well, The arms from the Dacian set didn't fit my chosen Samnite bodies at all. Dacians come with full arms, while Samnite only need them from the elbow down. Well, but that's why I chose plastic sets, because these type of obstacles can be easily overcome with hammer and pliers, if you get my meaning. After a bit of trimming and adjusting, I had my first Thracian. It looked good, so using the same strategy, I made another one. For the Thracians, the sword was generally a backup weapon, and an expensive one for that matter, which is why I had to take into account and include javelins in my unit, as this was a primary weapon for the most of the warriors. Also, I wanted to include a two-handed Romfire version, naturally. I decided to take the easy way out again. Attempts to fit the two-handed arms of Dacians with the Romfire to the body of Samnites did not look promising. It would be rather difficult to cut and adjust minis so they would fit well. The thing is that I only had a few miniatures from both sets, and it was hard for me to risk damaging them and ending up with nothing. In the end, I decided to leave the original Dacians as they were, wearing pants, that is. My only adjustments were the helmets. I gave them very popular with Thracians, Chalcidian and Phrygian helmets. Well, there is a credible historical justification for this. Pretty much credible it is. As it is written, Thracian warriors from the northern tribes would totally wear pants. Could those in pants and those in tunics be in the same unit? Well, let's just leave this as an unexplored secret of history. Now the painting. Mentioned before, Thracians' change of appearance during 4th century BC caused that the popular image of the warrior has completely changed. Abandoned were beards, tattoos, caps, tall boots and patterned tunics. All this is backed up by archaeological evidence. Thracians became something of a medium infantry with a strong Hellenistic look. This is how I wanted to depict my Thracians, and I kind of did, as you could observe during the kitbashing and converting process. When it comes to painting, the palette is not very demanding and the clothing itself is rather simple. Tunics with some colorful stripes, as seen in the illustration, and pants of my two-handed Romfire warriors I decided to make plain and in just one color. I talked about the weaponry and armor earlier. It is also worth noting that Thracians' equipment of that age was somewhat dated, or maybe to be more precise, I should say unfashionable. So frequently worn greaves as well as helmet types were out of use elsewhere, yet Thracians found them useful and very popular. All this makes up for a distinctive appearance of Thracians, which I was drawn to. Painting technique are rather simple. Skin on half-naked Romfire warriors was painted with 3 colors technique, starting from the darkest tone and then actual skin color followed by highlight. All the clothing was treated with army painter's spit paint to begin with. There is a mention that Thracians' infantry, fighting at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, wore black tunics. To honor this, I decided to go for black cloaks on 2 of my warriors wearing them. So, this way I created and painted my plastic Victrix Thracians. There's only 6 of them, as you can see, but originally they were aimed as auxiliary unit for Marian Romans for basic impetus game. I think they turned out rather great, and I'm thinking of making more, as a small force for Clash of Spears game. Well, we'll see. One more thing I would like to say is this. Dear Victrix, I know that you are in process of making some Fuera Furore minis. Please take into account if possible, to make the spruce in such way that warriors from Thrace or Illyria could be portrayed. Well, if you're still here, thanks for watching. Also, please consider one of the options for supporting my channel, either through subscribing and commenting or helping me through patronage using Buy Me a Coffee portal. Either way, I'm grateful you're here, and till next time, cheers!